Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Today it is the 25th of August, 2022. And on the show today, Matt Weyrich joins us. Talk about the upcoming debut of Cade Cavalli. Also going to talk about some other stories going around the Nats right now. Joey Meneses, will he be here next year? Should the Nats consider keeping him and others? Also an update on the minor league boys coming up next.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, Josh Neighbors here with Matt Weyrich of NBC Sports Washington. Matt, this will be the last time that you and I converse on this platform. First of all, thank you for all of your insights and your coverage. These have been some of my favorite episodes that we have done over the past, feels like a couple years now, you and I have been talking. So we appreciate you always coming on, making time for us, and making us a little bit smarter by the time that we're done.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. It's always a good time. Talk ball with you. You know, I'm going to miss these episodes for sure. And a toast to you. Good luck in your future endeavors. I know you're going to kill it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So it's funny. I was recording yesterday with the new host, Ryan Clary, and we were talking about Cade Cavalli not being brought up. And lo and behold, like an hour after we finished broadcasting, we got, or finished the show, we got the news. So timing wise, was this the right time? Because, I think in a vacuum, you could say, yes, it is. But all things considered during the national season, when they were throwing Jackson Tetrio and Corey Abbott and Evan Lee, all of those guys up to the big leagues, they really were skipping the line just to take care of Cade Cavalli, in my opinion. Do you see that differently? Do you think they should have done this earlier? Or do you think this is the right time? Because he's pitched a bunch and he's pitched really well in AAA. But do they wait? Could they have done this earlier?
They definitely could have. I think that, for the last 3 months, really, he has shown that he has adapted to AAA level hitting. He's been on quite the tear here over his last 13 starts. I mean, some really impressive numbers. The strikeout to walk ratio, despite still some control issues in there, is still very good. So I think that, he was ready to come up. The Nationals talked a lot about how, they wanted to see consistency from him and his mechanics and his preparation from start to start. And that's not something you see in the numbers, not something you see, when you tune into the minor league games that are streamed. So, who knows if he really was 100% ready. It made sense that considering he was a two-way player at Oklahoma and really didn't start pitching on a every week basis until he got into the professional ranks. It makes sense that they wanted to take things slow. But honestly, I think the real reason here is with the new CBA, players who come up on opening day to start a season and then place in the top 2 of Rookie of the Year voting, Cy Young voting, whatever, earn that team a extra draft pick. But they have to have rookie eligibility in order to do it. So by waiting here until this last month of the season, Cavalli cannot exceed rookie limits in this season. So he will carry that over into next year. So the Nationals will still be eligible to get that additional draft pick if he does put it all together and have an outstanding rookie season.
It's interesting. Yeah. And, there's so much pressure on him, not just because of you want this guy to succeed and it's becoming big leaguer. Sure, there's pressure in itself on that. But, the Nats recently with the Juan Soto trade have done a little better job stocking the farm. But this really is the pitcher. I mean, this is the main pitcher that we've been talking about last couple of years that they're about to bring up. And with the way things have gone for Patrick Corbin, the way things have gone for Steven Strasburg, and the way, and Josiah Gray is there, and it doesn't seem like, Fetty and Joe Ross, questions about whether these guys are going to be part of the rotation in the future. This is so important. This is a really important piece for the rebuild. He has to be good for the Nationals to really get this thing back on track. They've got JoJo, and he looks like things, once again, really up and down, still clearly learning. This is a true blue chipper, though, in Cade Cavalli. This is a potential number 1 or number 2 guy. And it really seems like it needs to work out for the Nationals moving forward.
Yeah, I think you have to include Mackenzie Gore in this conversation too. Yeah. I think at a certain point we might see Gore, Cavalli, and Gray in the rotation all at once at the end of the year, and I think that's a really exciting process.
By the way, where are we on that? Do we think Mackenzie Gore is going to pitch this year, or we think they're going to hold off to the end of the year?
It looks like he's ramping up to pitch. I mean, he's
Okay.
still got, a little bit to go here, but, he is not, shut things down. He's got a ramp up throwing program going on. So it does seem like the Nationals intend to get him back on the mound in a game before the end of the year. So I think that it is likely we see him before the season is out. But as far as Cavalli goes, you're right. He is an integral part of this organization. And for, the Nationals to move forward and be successful, they're going to need, but between him, Gray, and Mackenzie Gore, probably at least two of those guys to really pan out and be dependable major league starters, hopefully all three. But to make matters worse, Cole Henry just underwent thoracic outlet syndrome surgery, so he is going to be out for the foreseeable future. And if you look at the Nationals farm system, they have added a ton of talent here in the last 2 years, but there's a big gap between Cavalli and the rest of the farm system in terms of where they are in their development. All these guys that they acquired in the trade for Juan Soto, Josh Bell, all were in single A or lower. And I know Robert Hassel has moved up now to double A, but he is still at least a year removed from the majors, if not longer. And same could be said for pretty much everyone else in the organization. Your Elijah Greens, your Brady Houses, those guys are still teenagers. They've got a long ways to go. So, as far as the talent that is going to be hitting the major league level, not just by the end of this season, but next year as well, I mean, Cavalli and Gore are really the only two guys that you're going to be able to, inject into your major league roster here in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, obviously CJ Abrams is there, but for pitching purposes, that's the thing is, I mean, you look at all these guys the Nationals have, there's a lot to be excited about, but not much on the pitching front, right? You've got Gore and you got, I've almost put it like this, like Gore, okay, Gore and Cavalli now they've graduated. They're about to be, major league pitchers, and we hope they stay that way, and we hope they can stay healthy. You look down the pike, like they're not about to keep, like you mentioned, tossing guys in the big leagues now. There's a lot of questions about, hey, who's the next starting pitcher that's a prospect they're going to bring up? I mean, Wood, Hassel, Abrams just went up, House,
Susanna.
you mentioned. Yeah. Susana's the next guy we have to look
single
at.
A,
Yeah, in single A, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Cade Cavalli, though, what kind of pitcher can Nationals fans expect? What does he bring to the table for those who have not been able to watch him so far, in his minor league and maybe even his college campaigns?
Yeah, well, he fits exactly the type of mold that Mike Rizzo has looked for in starting pitchers. Big guy, tall presence on the mound, power fastball, tops out 98, 99. He's got a repertoire that's still developing here, curveball, changeup that are still kind of being implemented, the slider as well. It remains to be seen just how developed that's going to be, and his ability to mix up pitches is something that he was kind of working on down in the minor leagues. Is a big emphasis for him is, once you get through the order once or twice, how are you changing your looks to opposing hitters? That was something that he really didn't have to do back in the college ranks, and that he's been trying to do here more in the professional minor league system. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the major leagues. He's got some control issues. The walks were a problem. Home runs, though, not really a big issue for him. He really hasn't given up much long balls at all in AAA this year. So that's an encouraging sign. But just how much he's going to be able to stay in the strike zone is going to be a big emphasis, and really the determining factor as to whether he can stick in the majors or not.
And, it kind of gets us to the next guy I want to talk about. You talked about Yarlin Susana. I mean, that was some footage we got yesterday. Good Lord, this kid, he's got a howitzer. I mean, 103 last night down there in Fredericksburg. And also the slider looked like it was 95 as well. I mean, this was kind of the big lottery ticket, right? I know Wood, I know Hassel, they're down there and they don't feel like super lottery tickets, but like they are somewhat, but like this kid's the legit lottery ticket. I mean, that is unbelievable stuff that he's already got at that age. You want him to be a starting pitcher, right? But like this guy's at least going to be a really effective reliever at the bare minimum. And I don't know how Nats fans don't get excited about what they saw just in small footage. And also I think it was 5 innings, 9 Ks, 1 run allowed.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the tools that you don't usually see for an 18-year-old. I mean, when a guy is hitting 103, he's usually a bit further along in his development. So it is definitely impressive to see him throwing for that kind of velocity at such a young age. His control, like with Cavalli, is going to be an issue. And like with any really 103-mile-an-hour thrower, It is hard to keep a pitch like that in the strike zone on a consistent basis. So, that's something that's going to be up to the Nats pitching staff, pitching coordinators down at AAA, single A, I should say, to work on with him And it's going to be, like you said, a lottery ticket situation. I mean, I think a guy that we don't really talk about, but is a similar player, Aldo Ramirez, who the Nationals acquired in the Kyle Schwarber trade last year, a similar lottery ticket type, throws for a very high velocity. He has been on the shelf this year a little bit with an injury, but is somebody who, the Nationals hope the two of them could come up together. They're around the same age and throw very similarly, where they maybe could be in the rotation down the line. But with any prospect, you have to have the caveat, they're prospects and these things are fickle, and the odds are they're not going to pan out more often than they do. So you have to look at the whole body of work here, their entire system, and hope that they are able to get, a couple of guys each year that are coming up in the major leagues and making an impact.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what his development. It's gonna be something very interesting that we keep tracking. All right, so let's look at the current roster itself and what's been going on. Joey Meneses is just what a good story, right? Now, I've said this a lot. It's kind of been born out of like suck. You know what I mean? It's been really awful, and that's why he's getting a chance. But hey, there is a silver lining here. This guy, I kind of likened him to Paulo Espino, right? Took him a really long time to get his chance, and it wasn't his first chance where Espino's really made his money. But metaphorically speaking, he's not making a ton of money. But Meneses is like first opportunity at the age of 30. This guy's been grinding. You look at his baseball reference page, Matt. This dude has been all over the freaking place playing baseball. It's unbelievable. And to see him have the success he has, before we talk about like his staying power, man, is that exciting to see. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. 10 years in the minor leagues, 2 years of international ball, bounced around between several different organizations, really spent a long time in AAA. It's awesome to see a guy get rewarded for sticking it out, because how many players will eventually give up. They're like, look, I'm never going to make it. My numbers at AAA just haven't matched up, but with the guys that are getting called, I think it's time I look elsewhere. But he's stuck with it, and that's just an awesome story. It does come out of the Nationals being a bad team to be able to give him a chance. But hey, you said the same thing about Yadiel Hernandez, and he's been an awesome player for the Nationals the last couple of years, at least at the plate. So for Meneses and moving forward, it's all gravy what he gives the Nationals for sure. But for him to come up in the wake of the Soto and Bell trade, which on the day that happened, or the next day when he reported, I was in the clubhouse and we were asking him, like, what is it like to come up, and having to replace those guys? And he was very calm about it. It was like, look, that's just the situation it is, but I'm not trying to think about that. I'm just getting my chance, and I'm really excited for it. So all he's done is rake ever since, and it's been really awesome to see.
What do you look? This guy's got 945 OPS. I mean, he's been doing some serious damage. What do you think about him, where he fits in moving forward for the Nationals? Like, is this a guy? I know it's only been 1 month. He's only played 19 games, but this is a guy that it's all on the table right now for the Nats, right? There's really nothing you shouldn't try. Is this somebody that you think, hey, look, I've seen enough. I know Lane Thomas kind of it worked out the opposite way. It hadn't gone well, since he played really well. Maybe this could. What do you think about his chances of remaining with the Nationals next year? Because he ain't gonna cost very much.
Yeah, no, he's going to become cheap, and the Nationals don't really have a ton of answers at first base beyond Luke Voit. So I think that having him, Voit, and Yadiel Hernandez in the mix for playing time at first base, DH, and corner outfield is probably a pretty good plan. I mean, it's going to depend on Meneses and his ability to hit the rest of the year in order for him to really get that shot come spring training. I don't think that anything is necessarily going to be guaranteed. We're going to be seeing plenty of spring training competitions next year. And, if he hits the way he is, I'm sure he'll be involved in that. No reason for the Nationals to move on from him after all that. But certainly, they got to be excited about this, and there's going to be a role for him if he continues to hit like he has.
Yeah, I mean, it's just give the guy a chance, right? That's kind of all you ask for here if you're a Nationals fan. What else right now with the Nationals is the most interesting to you at this point of the season, right? This is kind of where we've cleared the trade deadline by a while now. Like, what are you watching as as somebody who covers this team as the Nationals head towards the back portion of the season?
Well, I think one thing you have to look at is this outfield. Like, what is their plan for next year? Are they going to bring in a free agent? Is like a Brandon Nimmo maybe going to make sense? A veteran who will at least give you, a solid floor of production. in the outfield, because right now they really don't have it. I mean, Lane Thomas has been up and down all year. He's among their team leaders in home runs, which is just kind of shows what the state of this team is. But Victor Robles has not shown that he can be an everyday player at this point. I think it's pretty clear who he is. We're kind of past the point of him trying to reach his potential. At a certain point, you kind of have to look at the player and say, okay, this is what we're going to get out of this guy. And we're still seeing rookie mistakes from him in the field, on the base paths, at the plate, on a consistent basis. And, that's kind of inexcusable for a guy who's been in the league as long as he has now. So with that, and Yadiel Hernandez not providing great defense in the corner, I think that they got to bring in some kind of outfielder next year. So this is kind of an open audition period. Who's going to be able to be part of that outfield mix next year? Is Lane Thomas going to get another chance to be a fourth outfield guy? Is Alex Call maybe somebody who could edge out a player like Robles? There's a lot of question marks about this outfield in a way that it's so funny. You go back a couple of years ago and they had one of the best outfields in baseball, right, and they are very far removed from that right now. And they've got a lot of young outfielders coming up through the system. But I think that, having, you want to have more depth than you need. And if you bring in a guy like Nimmo, who's got such a high on-base percentage, does have some injury issues. But I think that, you're probably not going to see the Nationals, going for the Trey Turners of the world, the Aaron Judges this offseason. It's probably going to be more for value buys, but they haven't signed a multi-year deal in a couple of years. And I think that's something that probably needs to happen soon to get some stability there. And I think the outfield is probably the place where I would point to the most.
You and I have talked about this too. It's like you just gotta, we talked about with Josh Bell particularly, right? You just, at some point, you got to get some guys just on the books who can help younger players, and just, you don't have to worry about it. Like Luke Voigt's a good example of this. It doesn't really matter how well Luke Voigt plays. I mean, sure, in the long term, it's like, look, do we need to find somebody else at first base? Probably. But, for right now, like, we don't have to worry about first, right? Same thing. I think you're totally on it with the outfield. I think for them, the spot's probably where I wouldn't hit our middle infield, just because you want to see how good these guys. I mean, you got between Garcia, between Abrams, and then obviously, House is the guy next up in a kind of, we're thinking about, like, you
Carter Kieboom's still here too.
Carter,
he'll be coming back next year.
Him, right? And so you want to give all these guys a chance to figure it out. And I remember our one big complaint was it's Carter Kieboom's third base, right? And it turned out it was Asdrubal Cabrera's third base. Like, there is a balancing act, but there is just some. I mean, the outfield, you're totally right. They're at a point now where the outfield, you might just need to snag some vets, because it's been a rotating door between Stevenson and Robles and Yadiel Hernandez. I mean, Meneses has been out there in the outfield. They've really been switching those guys around. Maybe bring in like a Michael Conforto, right? That's one of those guys you could bring in for a year, maybe 2 years, just to get somebody in there who's a vet, and that's a prove it guy. Maybe it could be somebody that you move at the deadline next year. Just start thinking about something that's stable, that doesn't resemble all of these non-commodities coming in and out, right? You want to start to build just a little bit, even if it's not a guy, not a guy that's part of your next winning team. It's just something stable.
And let's remember, Mike Rizzo has talked a lot about how he's trying to follow the same blueprint that they set from 2009 to 2012. And if you look at matching up those years with the years that we're in now, 2023 is going to be equivalent to 2011, which 2011, the Nationals went 80 and 81. Are they really going to jump from, they're on 108 loss pace right now. Are they really going to jump from 108 losses to 81 losses? I mean, they're going to have to bring in some free agents if they want to do it. That 2011 season was Jason Wirtz's first season. Are we going to see them bring in, somebody of Wirtz's stature? Probably not, because they already have Corbin and Strasburg on the books, which they did not have when they had that 2011 season. It was just Ryan Zimmerman was kind of their big guy. But other than that, they didn't really have anybody on the books for a lot of money. So, this is a pivotal point for this franchise, and they kind of have to decide, if we really want this to be a reboot and not a rebuild, we have to supplement our holes with free agents, and sooner rather than later.
All right, Matt, we appreciate your time as always. What are you working on right now? How can you tell the folks about it? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm actually getting ready to head down to Fredericksburg today. I'm going to the game, going to be talking to a bunch of guys, including James Wood, Mason Denneberg, a few others. So excited to get down there and talk to those guys. I'll be rolling out some stuff over the next week or so. And of course, I will be at Nationals Park tomorrow for Cade Cavalli start. So you can go and check out all of my stuff on the Nationals at NBCSportsWashington.com or on Twitter at @MattWeyrich.
Matt, as always, we appreciate your time, and I'm sure I'll see you somewhere down the road.
Absolutely, man. Good luck.